everyone, and welcome to another episode of Loud Pigment, our youth-led podcast brought to you by FBYC Creative Action for Conservation. And in this episode, we're talking to Gavin Tesser, who is a 2025 Future Youth Council member and an incoming student at the University of Pennsylvania. He's an environmental activist. He's passionate about environmental policy and many different things that he's going to be talking about today.
Hi everyone, my name is Gavin, and I'm so happy to be here today speaking with everyone.
And as always, our background is a painting, and this one is actually made by Gavin himself. And if you could share what it means to you, what it is about, and why did you decide to choose this painting?
This piece is called Shell Shock, and I chose it to be the background because it represents how plastic pollution becomes deeply integrated into marine ecosystems. As you can see on the turtle shell, there are real plastic bags, and it just represents how once plastic enters marine ecosystems, it becomes very hard to reduce. And I feel like plastic pollution is something that has hit my home a lot because there's a local creek by my house that I participated in a creek cleanup of, and there was a lot of plastic in the creek. And I feel like this just represents how plastic pollution not only impacts my own community, but also impacts the green sea turtle community as well.
Yeah, this problem is such a prominent part of our lives right now. Can you talk us through like the process of how you actually made this painting, like what you used?
So again, I was inspired by how plastic pollution impacts marine ecosystems. And for the base, I started with watercolor as the background, and then on as well as for the turtles. And then on top of the watercolor, I layered gouache to create more opaque coloring, specifically for some of like the um, ecosystem detailing and the seaweed as well as some of the plastic bags that you can see in the background. And then on top of the gouache and the watercolor, I used colored pencil to just create more defined coloring in certain areas, such as on the turtles, um, and also like on the seaweed. And then finally, I cut and layered plastic bags that I glued onto the turtle shell to again represent plastic pollution.
This is really an amazing painting, and I love that we're showing it today. And yeah, now let's move on to the questions. And the first question that we always ask is, what is one book, podcast, or media piece that lives in your mind rent-free?
So I would actually say that one piece that lives in my mind is Cowspiracy, which is a documentary about the environmental impacts behind the meat industry. And I would just say that it was a very eye-opening documentary, and I would recommend it to anyone because it's just very inspiring and it has a lot of information that's often overlooked in the meat industry.
Okay, I'll add that to my list. And what is your favorite water animal and why?
My favorite water animal are green sea turtles, which are also represented in this painting behind us, because I feel like they are very resilient and elegant. And I just really also resonate with them because I also try to be very resilient. So I feel like they're very inspiring creatures to me.
What is one thing that makes you happy right now?
I would say one thing that makes me happy is actually creating artwork out of recycled materials, such as this piece, because it allows me to reflect on environmental damage and also just creating art also is something that I really enjoy. So I feel like combining my passion with art and the environment just really brings me joy and allows me to reflect on such dark issues. So I would recommend it to anyone who's experiencing eco-anxiety or fear for our future in terms of climate change because it's a very reflective activity and it allows us to also create messages that can be shared with other audiences because art is very powerful and can be shared and appreciated by everyone across the world.
Yeah, it is. It is truly so powerful. And yeah, you mentioned how passionate you are about this kind of merge of art and environmentalism. Where did this passion kind of come from?
In elementary school, I started taking art classes because I've always been an artist and very interested in the visual arts. And then as I approached high school, I began to become, in middle school as well, I became more aware of environmental issues. And I realized that sustainability is a career that I want to pursue professionally. So I kind of merged my interest for art with my like professional interest for the environment. And that's kind of how I got to art. And also, I found that integrating recycled elements into pieces just takes it to the next level and just creates like a more satisfying piece and just elevates the message.
That's perfect. And I feel like being a part of the Future Belief Council kind of really helped you to grow those interests and create something even bigger out of that. So could you talk more about the this experience of being in the council?
Yeah, I would say that the Future Blue Youth Council was a very enlightening experience because I got to work with youth from across the world who are passionate about leveraging creativity to create a more sustainable future, which is kind of the first time I've been surrounded by a group that shares that interest. And the Future Blue Youth Council were not only, the members were not only interested in visual arts, they were also interested in performing arts and poetry and writing. So it really also opened my eyes to the different ways to reflect on the environmental movement through the creative arts, not only the visual arts. And again, I was able to work with a lot of youth. And while we did experience some time zone scheduling difficulties, we were able to work around that, which really spoke to how passionate we were and our shared interests. And I really enjoyed working on some projects with the youth, and we're still, some of us are keeping in touch. So I'm really just grateful to have had the opportunity to be on the Future Blue Youth Council.
Yeah, I agree with that because I was also part of the Future Belief Council in 2023, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've had. And yeah, you did mention having worked with other members on different projects. Could you share some of the most important ones for you?
Yeah, I would say the most impact, there were two most impactful experiences. I would say one was the mentoring of the fellowship projects because I feel like for both of my cases, the fellows were actually older than me and had like more life experiences than me. So I feel like I was able to provide specialized ex insight for them because they were looking to kind of cater their programs to a target audience of high schoolers. So I feel like in that case, although I didn't have as much life experiences as the fellows themselves, I was able to leverage my insight as a youth within their target audience age. But I also learned a lot from them. So I feel like the mentorship was a two-way street because they provided me a lot of insight as well into just how to like leverage programs and expand them. And that was very insightful. And I would say the second most impactful project was creating the IUCN World Conservation Congress interactive activity because we just got to combine all of our interests and ideas into a single piece. And I just feel like from like the initial meeting, we had so many different ideas. And then in the end, we were able to merge all of them together to create a cohesive project. And I just feel like we were able to really collaborate and merge ideas together. So that was really impactful.
That sounds amazing. And you also seem like a very ambitious environmental leader. And I've also noticed that when I was evaluating the applications for the 2025 Future Blue Council, and you had so many personal projects going on, could you share like what specific personal projects that you have and you've worked on related to environmentalism?
The one project that I've worked on in my home community is an initiative I founded called Pencil to Planet, which is an environmental art and literacy initiative. And in part, it's inspired by Bauseat's mission to leverage the creative arts to educate youth about creativity, but we only focus on the visual arts. So we host workshops for underprivileged youth in our local communities to educate youth about endangered species as well as how to protect them. So each class we focus on a craft, of an endangered animal, and then we focus on why they're endangered and how to protect them moving forward. And often these youth don't have sustainability as part of their education. So this is a way to kind of supplement their education and educate them about environmental studies. And beyond like the classes for underprivileged youth, we also host an art contest. Um, we also table at various events, and we just have like a lot of programs on that end, including hosting public art galleries. And then another project that I've been involved in is I proposed the first environmental youth advisory council to the California Environmental Protection Agency. So that would be the first statewide youth advisory council engaging youth at the statewide level in the state of California. And that's currently in progress. But I would say that has been a very impactful project for me throughout high school because I've learned a lot about the process of creating policies and just stuff that I'll leverage moving forward.
That sounds like an amazing initiative, especially the Pencil to Planet initiative that you started. What is your favorite memory of this project?
Yeah, during one of our first art classes, there was a kid who um, we were focusing on actually a sea turtle craft. And I remember he whispered that he would now like make a difference in his community using some of the knowledge he learned. And I feel like that was just it kind of has stayed with me and shown me the importance of these classes and how they can change attitudes and kind of make a difference in individual lives and then hopefully result in collective change. And I believe he also mentioned that he would tell his family about it.
So beautiful, and it's amazing to see how those kind of projects impact those people kind of personally on this very personal and deep level. And I do agree that education is extremely important, especially environmental education. And you're going to be attending University of Pennsylvania this fall. Can you share more about what led you to choose this college and your major? And are you going to be pursuing any environmental interests further on in your college?
Yeah, I hope to explore the intersection of like the business sector and sustainability because kind of exploring environmental policy and sustainability in general has led me to realize that we can kind of make the biggest impact in the private sector. So I'm very interested in helping large companies transition to more sustainable business practices or something along that lines. I'm still exploring and I'm going to take a lot of sustainability based classes because I'm not sure exactly what I want to do in the future, but I definitely want to do something sustainability based. And I feel like there's so much need and so many job opportunities that are in the sustainability industry that there's definitely a lot to explore. And Penn has a lot of different classes that and a lot of robust sustainability programs that I was very interested in, as well as a lot of clubs that are kind of focused on the intersection of sustainability and business. So that's kind of why I picked Penn.
I feel like this intersection is really interesting. I find it really amusing that it's possible to merge different interests and pick a major based on those. And can you kind of share like an advice or a tip for all people who are applying now or entering this like new um, era, I guess, of their lives and stepping into adulthood?
I would just say, I know this is cliche, but I would advise everyone to just be true to themselves. And when creating applications to colleges or programs, I would advise them to say what they think is true about themselves and not necessarily what the college is looking for. Because I feel like if you're trying to create an application based on what the college is looking for, you'll end up representing yourself as someone else in your applications. So I feel like just staying true to yourself is something very important in applications and something that we should all strive to do when submitting applications. And I feel like often the most successful applicants to colleges are the ones that like are able to represent themselves as themselves truly, because I feel like colleges are looking for like very genuine people. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. You said like staying true to yourself is like the most important part. How were you able to show that in your application? Like how were you able to present yourself in this way?
Yeah, so I focused a lot of my essays on different environmental topics. So I was able to talk about like all of my different interests. So I feel like my application was like very environmentally heavy, which is kind of who I am as a person. So I wanted to make sure to reflect that in my applications.
Yeah, and I love that so many ambitious people are in the Future Belief Council. And we just had a talk with Ziching, who was also part of your council, and she's attending Princeton University. And I feel like it's amazing that Future Belief Council connects so many cool people from all around the world. How would you say being a council member help you kind of become this environmental leader?
I would say that, as I mentioned before, it kind of equipped me with a lot of collaborative skills because the Future Blue Youth Council is composed of youth all around the world. So we had to work across time zones to just find meeting times that worked for everyone. And if we couldn't, we had to work asynchronously. So it's definitely taught me how to be more collaborative and flexible. And I would also say that now we all have each other's contact information, so we're all staying in touch. And if we ever have like new initiatives or projects that we're interested in starting, the future Blue Youth Council members would likely support us and help us on in those. So I feel like it's just created like a community that we'll kind of have forever. And there's also the Future Blue Youth Council newsletter, I believe, that also kind of connects the Future Blue Youth Council cohorts together.
It is, and it's an amazing initiative to like keep all the people connected. And we also are building an alumni network of all the alumni from like all different programs. So definitely, yeah, staying connected is extremely important. And is there one advice you would give to all the people who want to get involved in environmental activism and artivism specifically? And like, how can they choose their creative medium?
I would say that even if you don't think you're an artistic person, there are so many different aspects of the arts that kind of can interest everyone. So I would just advise exploring with different mediums, whether that be like visual arts, poetry, writing, or even like spoken word, which you can explore and see which one may interest you. And even music can be a creative field. So I feel like I would just advise exploring and finding what interests you because there are so many opportunities. And I guarantee that every youth who does some exploring will eventually find their medium and what interests them. So yeah.
Yeah, this sounds so inspiring, and I hope that to everyone who's interested in joining this community, it's just important to start. And all the other youth leaders all across the world there meet you halfway there, so don't be scared of that. And yeah, as our final kind of question, is there someone that you'd like to say hi to in this podcast? So it can be like your family members, friends, or pretty much anyone who would watch this episode.
I would just like to say hi to all my fellow future Blue Youth Council members in the 2025 cohort. And I really appreciated working with everyone. And thank you for just being very collaborative and inspiring people. And I hope we can stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining this talk. And yeah, good luck in college and on your environmental journey.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. And thank you for having me. And bye, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode.